Let's talk interviews. How do interviews work in the travel world? So we know the perm, you apply and you get the follow-up email and you do it in person. But our travelers are anywhere and everywhere. So how does the interview process work for contract jobs? For us, we'll first need to what we call submit to a job. So we get a profile together, we send it over to the facility, and we sure hope they see your profile and they're like, that's the one, we want to interview. So I always joke, in the dream world, they would call us and say, love the profile. Could they interview at this exact time? And we connect. But that's the dream world. So most of these facilities are using travelers because they're overwhelmed. They need help. They couldn't find somebody perm. They need you. And so typically we see more often than not, when we submit your profile, we really try to encourage our travelers to be on the ready, right? After we submit, any unknown number after that point could possibly be a facility. And so really we want to prepare them for that. So ideally, speed's really important. If it's a really cool, hot job and they got 15 resumes, first one they get to, they're calling, right? And if they don't catch it, they're on to the next, and then they're gonna catch somebody, unfortunately, that they might love, right? It's gonna be a great call. And so by the time you call them back, they've already offered it. And it's not that they don't love you, they just offered first. So once we submit, we really say, be ready and be ready fast. Saying that though, you do want to answer the call when it's appropriate, right? Nobody wants to be the commercial of, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Or, for me with the little kids, if I had somebody screaming in the background, I may not make the best impression. So yes, we want you to answer, and we want you to answer quick. But if you can't answer in the best environment, you may not get the job if you answer. We always say, I'd try to wait till you can, right? Can you step away? Or if you're at work, possibly, right? You're on contract and you want to step away and have that phone call. So you get the call. In theory, we would tell you when. A lot of times they just call. It's really, as much as our world is Zooms, I'm not seeing many Zooms for interview. It's typically phone calls. Again, we've got a manager running a department, but that interview is crucial. So sometimes in our world, we'll see auto offers, my least favorite, right? Even if we get them, we try to encourage a call, because so much of what the agency works with nowadays is HR or somebody offsite. We're not kind of like, again, I'm old enough that I used to call to the director and talk about the needs, but really now there's just a lot of agencies and that would be a lot of calls. And so unfortunately, our contact typically doesn't have the nitty gritty details of the job, of what the team makeup is, why do they need a traveler? And so that phone interview with the manager can be clutch. And so we really have some good questions we always encourage on that call. First, best practice before any of that, the manager's name and phone number, because you just are talking to the person that has all the questions. So inevitably you're going to have a great call and then you forgot to ask that one thing. And so when you get the manager's phone number and name, good news, you can call them right back. And then you don't ask, we would ask that for you, of course, as the agency, and we will, but we ask somebody who asked somebody who asked somebody, and it takes a while to get the answer. And so that's a great party trick to be able to kind of have those follow-up questions fast. And then we say, like, what are great questions to ask? Some of these managers, they're interviewing and they just need help. Like, do you have the experience? Let's go. And so as much as they want to offer to you, we want you to ask questions as well, right? We want you to love this 13 weeks and have it be a great contract. The last thing we want is for you to hate your contract, because unfortunately, as much as it was probably a bad facility versus us, we're going to be seen in a bad light too. And so we want you to love the contracts and love Anders Group, and it's all rainbows and happiness. And so good questions to ask on an interview is, what's the day-to-day look like? What's the team? What software do you use? What are the expectations? Any challenges? Why is there a vacancy, right? You're trying to ask the questions that make sure that if you get there, it's going to be a great environment. Of course, there's always going to be an unknown, but we do feel like most of our travelers walk in feeling pretty prepared, right? They know what they're getting into, how many patients per day, is there any productivity expectations? Ask all these questions. So when you walk in day one, we always say kind of the element of surprise is the right contract there when we need it. That's the fun part. Everything else we try to type A control and make sure when you get there, it's awesome. So hopefully some helpful tips on that interview, both having it go great, asking questions, helping kind of lead it along, and then making sure your personality shines. Like, I'm lucky, I'm obviously loud and animated, but I always joke my husband's pretty quiet on the call. So for him, he has to really kind of amp up the smiling and have that come through, because that really is your maybe only impression to get the offer. And some jobs you may be the only submittal, and so the experience is great, but if it is like one of those hot jobs and there's a ton of applicants, you want to stand out. And so just trying to make sure your awesome personality, because it comes through on the phone. And so hopefully some helpful tips to help you rock the interview and snag the offer.